A marathon 16-week season presents a stern test. It is a tough course of blind curves and few easy straightaways. The St. Louis Cardinals embarked on that hazardous journey in 1983, and a remarkable story unfolded. In the beginning, the Cardinals did not play heads-up football, and victory eluded them. They suffered all the cliches, the emotional tightrope pulled tight around their necks, and the proverbial bullet could not be dodged. After 6 games, St. Louis had won only once. They lost games, but they never lost faith, and they slapped themselves awake for a fantastic finish. Runners that had found openings earlier suddenly were stopped cold. Fumbles that once slipped away were snapped up, and bad plays were transformed into big plays. The team that played so inconsistently at the outset blazed through the second half of the season, winning 6 of their last 8, forging a new attitude along the way. With each passing Sunday, St. Louis became a better and better football team. And by the journey's 15th week, they were good enough to beat up on the eventual world champion Los Angeles Raiders. Finally, in the frozen finale, the Cardinals destroyed Philadelphia, and the winning record no one dreamed possible was very real indeed. The St. Louis Cardinals, men with momentum, a team coming on.
Now will the Eagles dare a blitz in this situation? Arch in the shotgun, 2nd and 7, 34 seconds. Here comes the Eagles. Arch steps up, throws, in goal. Touchdown, Roy Green! Roy Green has caught a 21-yard touchdown!
St. Louis's dramatic come-from-behind win in Philadelphia ended a long, hard month. September was a month of fists against lockers, thrown helmets, and disappointment. 2 more losses brought their blood to a boil, and someone had to pay. Enemy quarterbacks paid the price for St. Louis's frustrating 1-5 start, and men like Al Baker, number 60, exacted the punishment as St. Louis's fortunes changed in a big way. Baker pressured from the outside, and David Galloway logged a dozen sacks from the inside, including a safety of Seattle's Dave Craig. Veteran Elo Grooms was fooled by very little, and teammate Curtis Greer out-sacked everyone. In 4 short seasons, Curtis Greer has fought through more double teams than most defenders see in a career. But with Baker in town, Greer was double-teamed far less, and both met often at the passes. Greer and Baker totaled 29.5 sacks, more than some teams, and when either was handled, Galloway, Mark Duda, and Stafford Mays came up with drive-ending plays. The defense was a sacking machine. 59 times they blasted quarterbacks, more than any other team. So many sacks, in so many ways, each with its own style and flair. There was the famous blindside sack, the you can run but you cannot hide sack, America's sack, the blitzing from out of nowhere take your head off sack, the if Al Baker doesn't get you, then Curtis Greer will sack, the excuse me while we separate you from the ball sack, a Cardinal favorite, and of course, the ever-popular, hey fellas, let's all meet at the quarterback sack. The Big Red Rush. Floyd Peters built it, many have felt it, and this pressure up front played a powerful part in St. Louis's 1983 Renaissance. When you log a record number of sacks, the praise is lavished upon the front four. But each would say that big sacks on third down come from big hits on second down. St. Louis had those kind of hitters. Big sacks also arise from incompleted passes. The Cardinals broke them up with the best. Today's linebackers border on the supernatural. They are football's Clark Kent in cleats. They are the strongest and fastest, and today they must be intelligent. Intelligent enough to read a fake cowboy scream, and tough enough to do something about it. Rookie Bob Harris, number 50, was drafted as a safety, but his size and sense dictated that he would make an outstanding linebacker. And outstanding he was. Before a knee injury placed him on the injured reserve list, Harris had nailed down a spot on a team blessed with tough young linebackers like Charlie Baker, number 52. Dave Aarons and Kurt Allerman shared time at linebacker, while E.J. Jr. strong-armed his way to another standout season. Junior is the $6 million man, Hercules, and Mr. T rolled up into one. He was second on the team in tackles and had more sacks than all other linebackers combined. Junior made all the plays, sacks, tackles, and interceptions. Number 54 is today's prototype hitman and the one at the heart of a young, improving Cardinal defense. Junior, Baker, and Greer are household names in the league these days, but St. Louis's secondary was comprised of young stars who played in relative obscurity. The 8 years of experience of number 38, Lee Nelson, are more years than the rest of the secondary members combined. And last season, his 119 tackles led the team. St. Louis's rear guard had a tough go of it in the early going, but men like Benny Perrin, number 23, and Wayne Smith got tougher as the season wore on, and Leonard Smith, number 45, made his mark covering call birdsong punts. Beaten at times, never once did these kids ever back down from a challenge. George Schmidt, rookie. Leonard Smith, rookie. Cedric Mack, number 47, rookie. Defensive backs thrown into the fire their first season. And it was yet another rookie, Lionel Washington, number 48, who picked off a team-high 8 passes, the second most in all of football. Lionel Washington, part of a defense that came on in 1983. Time was slipping away. Neil Lomax had suffered through a shoulder injury, missing 3.5 games. St. Louis's offense suffered accordingly. A 1-5 record was the result. Cardinal fans watched and waited patiently for the offense to emerge from the shadows. At last, Lomax was loose. The attack was ready, and it was time for St. Louis's second half march. Against the Vikings, there were many heroes. One was Neil O'Donoghue, who nailed a 52-yarder to atone for some early year inconsistency. This Sunday, however, belonged to Neil Lomax. The gateway gunner got everyone involved, and the Cardinals exploded for 5 touchdowns. Minnesota was beaten 41-31. St. Louis had its general, and his army was ready to follow his every command. Lomax's first statement, "We have only begun to fight." The toughest battles were waged up front. Tootie Robbins, number 63, and Art Plunkett guarded one flank. Clark, Ardick, Steve, and Bostic sealed the middle, and Luis Sharp, number 67, stood strong on the right side, and St. Louis's attack was on a roll. Fullback Randy Love, number 40, contributed, and number 56, Carlos Scott, helped open holes for Willard Harrow and determined veteran Wayne Morris. Mitchell again proved himself the league's best reserve running back, logging a pair of 100-yard days, averaging over 5 yards a carry, and scoring 3 touchdowns. A virtually unstoppable receiver near the end zone was number 80, Doug Marsh, whose 8 touchdown catches were second only to Roy Green. Depth at tight end was provided by Greg LaFleur, whose strength and persistence squeezed every inch out of every reception. Muscles have their place in the game, but so does magic. With his magic hat and white gloves, little Pat Tilley performed his disappearing act each Sunday as the slippery escape artist caught passes for nearly 700 yards. Now you see him, now you don't. Tilley is a wizard, and when the situation dictates, the magician transformed himself into quite the juggler. Pat Tilley, a talented target and an elusive one for frustrated defenders. Being a target is a tough way to make a living. For O.J. Anderson, being a target has become a way of life. His picture appears on the bulletin board in his opponent's locker room. Before each game, visiting coaches decree, "Stop O.J. and you stop the Cardinals." In 1983, Anderson was unstoppable. 7 times he rushed for over 100 yards. Add to that his versatility as a receiver, and you have a formidable 1,729 total yards. There are some runners who hit a hole faster, but none with the force of O.J. Anderson. Perhaps one play against the Chargers revealed what a true phenomenon he is. O.J. Anderson, St. Louis's all-time leading rusher and a one-of-a-kind offensive force. For the coach who stated, "Stop O.J. and you stop the Cardinals," that may have been accurate in years past. But in 1983, St. Louis featured another weapon, quite different, but just as lethal. Roy Green was a defensive back whom receivers couldn't shake, then a wide receiver whom defenders couldn't cover. A head coach with common sense made the transformation possible.
That day we were out at practice, and he stayed out afterwards, as he would often do, and just catch the football. He just loved to get out there and just kind of play around a little bit. And I'm standing there, and it really kind of went back to when I coached in high school football or junior college football, and I thought, hey, you know what? He's the best receiver we got on this football team.
In his first full season at wideout, all he did was score more touchdowns than any other receiver in the game. Jim Hannafin knows exactly why.
First of all, he's blessed with great speed, and he's got the soft hands. Now, along with all those factors, he's got a good head on his shoulders. He knows what's going on.
Green knows secondaries. He should. He played back there for 3 years. That knowledge helped him, and so did teammate Pat Tilley.
Pat Tiller's really helped me as far as, technician and routes and that type of thing. So the primary reason that I've been, fairly successful is the fact that I have played defense, and, I know defensive terminologies. I know how those guys think over there. And usually I can line up at the line of scrimmage and tell by defensive alignment what defense they're going to be in, so I can run my route through my head even before the ball snaps. I think that I can match any receiver in the league as far as speed. I've even surprised myself with some of the catches I come up with, so I guess my hands are pretty adequate. And really, I'm in my rookie season, as far as being a wide receiver, so I have lots of room for improvement, and maybe one day I can become maybe one of the top 3 wide receivers in the league.
Green is one of the elite right now. In 1981, he led the NFC in yards per catch. In 1982, he led the team in scoring receptions, and in 1983, he led the league with 14 touchdown catches. If you'd ask the playoff-bound Seahawks, they would say he's the NFL's best.
3rd and 12 from the 15. Lomax rolling to the left side, setting up, looking, throwing. It is caught. Touchdown! Roy Green. Lone setback now on 2nd and 3 from the Seahawk 23. Neal drops, sets up, looking, now throwing toward the end zone. Touchdown! Roy Green. Lomax fakes, rolls to the left side. He's got room to run, now throws. Touchdown, Roy Green! Roy's 3rd touchdown catch of the afternoon. Motion left side, now Roy Green runs straight ahead. Lomax lofts it deep for Roy Green down the middle. It is caught! 10-5 touchdown! His 4th touchdown of the afternoon.
Green's 4 scores blew away the Seahawks. And next up for the Big Red, the San Diego Chargers, where O.J. and company ran wild for 44 points and St. Louis's 3rd win in 4 games. Early in the year, the deck was stacked against them. But now these cards were aces. They were coming on, and they weren't finished yet. In the season's 15th week, the Cardinals showed the football world just how far they had come. Trailing the eventual world champion Raiders in Los Angeles, St. Louis forged an incredible comeback win. The defense roared in on Jim Plunkett, and told him, "We'll give you only one more score." And the St. Louis offense, rolling since midseason, continued to hum. After being behind, the Cardinals outscored the mighty Raiders 34-7 with big plays by their offense and their defense.
Plunkett drops. He's got time, sets up, and the ball is almost intercepted by Curtis Greer. It's picked up and running down the right sideline at the 20-yard line. Going to be a touchdown. Touchdown! Lomax drops, set, looks, still looking. Now throwing in zone. Touchdown! Patilli!
St. Louis was the last to beat the Raiders, and more importantly, they had earned themselves a shot at a winning season. With a wind chill factor of -10 degrees, it was ironic that such an ugly day would be the backdrop for such a beautiful victory. After 12 years of all-pro play, Dan Dierdorf suited up for his final Sunday, and his teammates gave him a memorable send-off against Philadelphia. Number 31, Earl Farrell, Lomax, Green, and Doug Marsh all helped lead the way. There was little drama. The Cardinals simply outran, out-hit, out-blocked, and outscored the Eagles. Especially dominating was the Cardinal pass rush, dropping Ron Jaworski an almost unthinkable 11 times, routing their division rivals 31-7. The St. Louis Football Cardinals, they finished like champions. In their final 10 games, they lost only twice. Earlier, they were forgotten. Now, they are tough, respected, and coming on.